This is a Fleet Europe interview hosted by Garcelle Hodge, journalist at Nexus Communication. Today's topic, why gender equality still lags behind in Turkey's workplaces. Introducing today's guest, Ahmet Dördüncü, member of the Board of Directors of Akkök Holding and chairman of the UN Global Compact Turkey. Enjoy the interview. Hello, I'm here with Ahmet Dördüncü, member of the board of Endülü. Thank you for being here. Can you please go ahead and talk a little bit about yourself and what you stand for?
Thank you very much for having me over here. My name is Ahmet Dördüncü, as you rightly pronounce it. And I'm actually a retired chief executive officer of the different big Turkish holdings. And for the time being, I'm the member of the board of the Anadolu Holding. As well as on the NGO side, I'm actually doing a lot of things, actually, especially the gender equality things. Actually, my really, I would say, I wouldn't say hobby. It's more than hobby because I do represent the women's right, especially in order to have them actually in the working process, and the working process to have more women in the working process. So. As I said, I'm the former chairman of the UN Global Compact, as well as there is actually another NGOs, like for example, to increase the board position of the women of the companies, you know, because when I look at very carefully, I mean, for example, in most of the publicly listed companies, there is no woman on the board, so which is actually really very much actually. To be very honest, is a pity because there are a lot of really very capable and with a high potential women around, and then we do not use them efficiently. So that's actually one of the things that I'm really very much fighting for it.
I agree. I think it's a pity. And what do you think that leaders could be doing more to advocate for equality in workplaces?
Well, actually, the leaders has to be actually taking care about that the diversity. And you have, especially on the board position and at the C level, and you, especially in those times, you know, there are a lot of uncertainties in those times, and then the board and the C level should be more capable than any time in the past. And in order to make the C level and the board level more capable, and it requires a diversity, it requires a different perspective, it requires a different understanding. This is actually pretty much would come from my point of view if you would include the women with a high potential in the board position, in the C level position. So it is actually the perspective, and I mean the company's perspective, looking at the future would be more fruitful, more effective, more rich. This is actually my argument.
Okay. And specifically in Turkey, when it comes to workplace equality, how has the progression been?
Well, actually, I'm not very much happy with that. I'm not that much satisfied because, as I said it earlier, I'm actually working on this more than 15 years right now, especially on the board position. As we have started at the years, 15, 20 years ago, the board positions of the women and the publicly listed companies here in Turkey was about 10 to 11%. In all those years, about something around 8 to 9 years that we have started, we barely reached today. Last year it was about 18 to 19%, and this is totally unsatisfactory. If you would imagine, the Turkish demography is actually 50% women and 50% male and female, you know, and the inclusions of the women in the working process is actually in general 35% only. You know, that's actually, for a country like ourselves, what I do think is actually we are wasting really a lot of potential, not using them. This 100%. Is actually my strong point.
100%. Do you think it is more of a lack of government support to push the inclusivity in workplaces?
Well, actually, of course, it has something to do with the regulatory environment as well. In most of the countries, in the Nordic countries, for example, there are a certain quota stating that there is a certain percentage of the board should be actually female. You know, we don't have that. This is actually, in our case, is just a recommendation, and this recommendation is taken care of it by some companies seriously, by other than total ignorance. You know, that is actually what we are fighting for. But the regulatory most probably will make the decisive factor at this point.
Okay. And to wrap this up, what is the dream or the goal that you would like to accomplish, not just in Turkey, but globally in the next 5 to 10 years?
50-50, my dear, 50-50. I mean, we are in UN Global Compact. This is the sustainability targets of the UN Global Compact. One of them is actually target gender equality. I mean, the recent survey has shown us in order to reach actually the ideal and really what we would like to have, the target gender equality, we need more than 100 years right now. So it means not only me, my son, even my grandkids will not be able to see that. So actually my dream is target gender equality means actually in working process, in the board level, in the C level, the inclusion of the woman is very much important. So it has to be actually 50-50, you know, actually look at the demography, 50% male, as I said it earlier, 50% female. So we should reach this goal. This is the ideal and this is the dream.
I completely agree. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
My pleasure.